Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something really common, right? This question that just pops up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Do men and women, tend to approach love differently? It's something you've likely wondered about yourself or maybe seen around you?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a topic just, well, brimming with assumptions, isn't it? Which makes it perfect for this kind of exploration we do.
Right.
We've got some really interesting material. It takes a pretty unique angle. The source calls it a psychedelic thought architect approach.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
Think of it less literally, more like a fresh way to connect different ideas, to try and unlock some maybe hidden understanding.
Yeah, intriguing. Okay. So the goal here isn't just repeating old stereotypes.
No, definitely
We're
not.
trying to unpack those easy male-female boxes and really get into the nuances, the complexities of how love is actually experienced and shown.
Exactly. We want to move beyond that surface level stuff.
So where do we start?
Well, the source material kicks off with what it calls conceptual dissolution.
Right. Breaking things down.
Yeah. And the first big thing is to question this very idea of men and women as just two neat, separate groups. So for you listening, when you notice different styles around love, what's like the first gender assumption maybe you should challenge?
Okay, let's unpack that because,
Yeah.
your first thought might be biology, right? Hormones, brains, whatever.
Hmm.
But the source pushes us. Okay, think wider. What about gender identity? That's not always binary.
Crucial point.
And then there's just the huge impact of culture, how
Right.
we're taught about relationships.
Oh, absolutely. Massive.
And hormones, the source mentions them, but points out, hey, they're not strictly male or female. We all have them, just in different mixes.
Precisely. It's a spectrum, and it goes even deeper. The source questions the whole idea of approaching love, like it's some fixed method.
Ah, right, like a strategy.
Yeah. What if it's not something you actively do in just one way? What if it's more about how we, I don't know, generate those feelings
Yeah.
or how we perceive love from others?
Or even just how we embody it, like
Yeah.
through our presence.
Exactly. How we show up. It's a real shift from thinking about it as a plan.
Yeah, it is. And then the source looks at the word difference itself. Instead of just opposition, men are like this, women are like that.
It suggests maybe thinking about it as like complementary, like two sides of a coin.
Or different facets, like looking at a hologram from different angles.
Yeah, exactly, that holographic idea. The focus isn't really on who loves differently in big, broad strokes.
Yeah.
It's more about how love gets processed through all these different lenses.
Yeah.
Biology, sure, but also culture, symbols, personal history. It's the underlying mechanics.
Which brings us to this next idea, neural cross connections. Sounds technical, but I guess it's about linking different fields of knowledge.
That's it, connecting dots to get a richer picture of love.
So yes, hormones come up again. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone,
Uh-huh.
and testosterone, sometimes linked more with, say, competition or drive.
But the critical thing, again, is everyone has both. It varies. It's not this strict gender divide. What kind of potential influence do you think that might have, even if it's not totally gendered?
Well, I guess it means maybe slight tendencies, like depending on the balance in a given person or moment, maybe a subtle lean towards connection or perhaps assertiveness, but not destiny.
Exactly. Not destiny. It's about influences, not rules. And then, this is really cool, the source weaves in mythology. The Greek myth of Eros and Psyche.
Ah, okay. Desire in the soul.
Yeah. Eros, often seen as that active, desiring energy. And Psyche, embodying the soul, maybe more receptive initially, but the key is their story.
They both change, right?
Massively. They both go through these huge personal transformations because of their connection. It shows these aren't fixed roles we're stuck in.
So they're more like fluid energies,
Right.
archetypes that can evolve within us and between us.
That's a great way to put it. Fluid energies. And the source also looks at language, how the words we use shape our understanding. It gives these Korean examples, jong and sarang. Can you tell us a bit about those?
Sure. So as I understand it, Jong is more like this deep, long-term bond, the sense of interconnectedness that builds over time through
Yeah.
shared history.
Right, like deep attachment, affection.
Yeah. Whereas Sarang is closer to what we often think of as romantic love, maybe more passionate, immediate.
Exactly. And the idea isn't that men feel one and women feel the other. It's more that perhaps cultural scripts or expectations might nudge people towards prioritizing or expressing one language of love more often. And maybe that aligns somewhat with gendered expectations sometimes.
That makes total sense. It's about emphasis maybe shaped by the culture, not inherent nature.
Right. Which leads neatly into something very current the source looks at. dating app data.
Ah, yes. The whole who messages first thing.
Exactly. The pattern often seen as, men initiating more, women being more selective in responding.
Yeah, that observation comes up a lot.
But the source argues, look, don't jump to conclusions about deep-seated essence here. Think of it as interface behavior.
Interface behavior.
Meaning how people act within the system of the app, how it's designed, the unwritten social rules about who should start, the perceived abundance or scarcity of options.
Ah, okay. So it's behavior shaped by the platform itself, not necessarily reflecting how someone loves off-app.
Precisely. It's about navigating that specific environment. And then the source throws in this really kind of mind-bending analogy.
Oh.
Quantum entanglement.
Whoa, okay. How does that connect to love?
Well, it's used as an analogy, obviously. But the idea is maybe love isn't simple cause and effect. Maybe it's more like a shared field. A resonance between people.
A field resonance.
Yeah. And our individual ways of perceiving it, including gendered perceptions, are just like one type of interference pattern that shapes how we experience that field.
So it's highlighting the complexity, that tons of factors are shaping the experience, making simple male-female divides look, well, too simple.
Exactly. It really pushes back against oversimplification.
Okay, so this brings us logically to pattern recognition. Starting to see recurring themes in all this complexity.
Yeah, looking for those patterns. And one of the first big ones culturally is initiation versus reception.
Right. The classic script, man pursues, woman receives.
That old narrative. But the source says, hang on, if you look at relationships through like a systems theory lens.
Okay. Thinking about feedback loops and stuff.
Exactly. Input and feedback are always flowing both ways. Even if it looks like one person is initiating, the other person's response, or even their lack of response, is feedback that shapes what happens next. It's always dynamic.
It's never truly a one-way street then.
Never. Can you think of a time maybe you've seen that traditional script get flipped or complicated in real life?
Oh, definitely. It's much messier and more interactive in reality, isn't it? That interplay word keeps coming back.
It does. Then there's another pattern, protect versus nurture, often coded as masculine and feminine expressions of love.
Yeah, the stereotypes. Men show love by doing, providing, protecting.
Achieving, building.
And women show love through caring, emotional support, just being present.
Right. But the source frames these beautifully as yin and yang.
Ah, complementary forces again.
Exactly. Energies that exist in everyone. It's not that men only protect and women only nurture. We all have the capacity for both. We just express them differently, maybe emphasize one over the other depending on context or personality or conditioning.
So it's about the mix within each person.
Precisely. And then attachment styles get a mention. Avoidant, anxious, secure.
Do they map neatly onto gender?
Well, that's the interesting thing. There might be some statistical tendencies observed sometimes, maybe more anxious leaning one way, avoidant the other in some studies. But the source really emphasizes that our early experiences, like with our parents or caregiver.
Right, we first learned about connection.
Exactly. That and the cultural models we see are much stronger influences on our attachment style than just our biological sex.
So nurture and culture playing a bigger role there than nature, perhaps.
It seems that way, yes. Far more profound. And finally, this idea of love as a mirror. That one really resonated.
A mirror. Tell us more about what that means in this context.
Well, the idea is we don't necessarily love in ways dictated solely by our gender label. Instead, we tend to love in ways that reflect back our own internal landscape.
Okay. Like what?
Like our individual understanding of what feels safe in a connection, how we see ourselves, our identity, what gives our life meaning. Gender is just one factor influencing that reflection.
So we're drawn to and we express love in ways that kind of echo our own models of safety and self.
Yeah. What we've learned consciously or unconsciously about what love is or should be, it's very personal, ultimately.
Wow. Okay, so after all that deconstruction and connection making, what's the sort of crystallized insight? What's the main takeaway?
I think the core insight is this. The differences we often talk about, men versus women in love, they aren't mainly about some fundamental, essential difference in our core being.
Good.
Instead, they're mostly differences in interface.
The interface,
Right.
like how we connect and express.
Exactly. The way we interact with love, the way we show it, the way we receive it. And that interface is shaped by this complex mix, right? Our biology, yes, but also the social scripts we absorb, our personal histories, the symbolic archetypes we resonate with.
So many layers influencing how we actually do love, rather than some inherent blueprint difference.
You got it. And the source uses this lovely metaphor, a spectrum of love frequencies.
Frequencies, okay, go on.
Imagine, say, masculine-coded expressions of love, often vibrating on a frequency of doing.
Offering, building, protecting, like we said before.
Yeah. And maybe feminine-coded expressions vibrate more on a frequency of being.
Holding space, nurturing, flowing.
Right. But the crucial point is that everyone has access to the whole spectrum. We all possess both polarities.
And we activate them differently.
Yeah, depending on the situation, who we're with, our own internal balance at that moment. It's dynamic.
So it's definitely not about being stuck in one mode. It's about the whole range being available to everyone.
Exactly. Which leads us to the actionable insight, the takeaway for you listening.
Right. Instead of getting bogged down in are men and women different?
Yeah.
Well, what's a better question to ask in our own relationship?
The source suggests shifting the focus inward and onto the dynamic. Ask things like, what past stuff, what beliefs might my partner or I be mirroring or reflecting right now? What unconscious roles or expectations might be playing out between us? Are we running on old cultural scripts, or are we actually connecting authentically right here, right now?
That feels much more useful, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It moves away from these big, potentially limiting generalizations.
Totally. It brings it back to the individuals involved and the actual relationship.
Towards a deeper understanding of ourselves and the people we care about.
Precisely. It helps us see love less as this fixed duality, this either-or thing.
And more.
As a dynamic interplay, a constant co-creation between people.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up.
Yeah.
The big picture seems to be that the differences we often notice in how men and women do love are less about some core fundamental split based on sex, and more about the interface, how love gets expressed and navigated. And that interface is shaped by, well, a whole bunch of things.
A whole cocktail. Biology, social conditioning, personal history, even the big symbolic stories we carry about love.
Right. It's complex.
It really is. Which leads us to a final thought, something for you to maybe sit with.
Okay, leave us with something to chew on.
Think about those love frequencies we mentioned, that doing frequency and that being frequency. Where do you tend to operate most often? What about your partner or potential partners you notice? And the question is, what might happen if you became more conscious of these frequencies? If you could understand them better, maybe even intentionally shift between them sometimes? Could that lead to deeper connection, more empathy? Just a richer experience of love in your own life?